Going to take you live to Canberra now, where Foreign Minister Penny Wong is speaking after Australia decided to slap sanctions on 2 Israeli ministers.
The unhindered flow of aid. And we've also consistently advocated for a two-state solution. This is the only outcome which keeps faith with the imperative of the existence of Israel and its long-term security, that fulfils also the world's promise to the Palestinian people, and that enables two peoples to live in peace. It strengthens the force for peace and undermines extremism, and it is the opposite of what Hamas wants. We know that Hamas can have no role in a future Palestinian state. We believe a two-state solution is the only way to end the cycle of violence, and regrettably it is also clear that the Netanyahu government rejects it. This is clear from its devastating military campaign in Gaza, civilians being killed by the thousands, children starving. And it is also clear from policies including rampant settlement construction and impunity for settler violence in the West Bank. Like Israel's military expansion in Gaza, illegal settlements and impunity for settler violence in the West Bank are extinguishing the prospects of a two-state solution. Now, I know that Australians feel frustrated. I know that people feel like we have little chance of moving the dial on our own, but this has never meant we can do nothing. What it does mean is we do what we can by working with partners, and that is what we have done. We do the work of building coalitions with other countries, because when Australia acts, we then act with impact. Together with our partners, Australia has opposed Israel's humanitarian blockade and expansion of military operations in Gaza. And together with our partners, we have opposed the expansion of settlements in the West Bank like those announced by the Netanyahu government just a couple of weeks ago. And together with our partners, we have imposed sanctions on Israeli settlers for their violence against Palestinians. So far, the Netanyahu government has ignored this international opposition. Now, just as when we applied those sanctions previously, and just as when we applied sanctions against Hamas for their terrorism, Australia never speculates about possible future sanctions. We apply them without warning because that makes them harder to evade. And overnight, we have done that. Australia has applied targeted financial sanctions and travel bans to 2 senior ministers in the Israeli government, Ministers Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, for their role in serious human rights violations and abuses relating to Israeli settler violence in the West Bank. They are the most extreme proponents of the unlawful and violent settlement enterprise. And we have applied those measures with others. We have applied those measures in coordination with Canada, New Zealand, Norway and the United Kingdom. This action is the result of many months of effort and coordination. And together, these countries are sending a message. You have ignored the international community, and we do not tolerate it. The situation in the West Bank and the situation in Gaza are untenable both for civilians and long-term peace in the form of a two-state solution. Happy to take questions. I was going to go to Liz first, but she's not here. Oh, yeah, there you are at the back. She got in early.
These sanctions are, we pre-arranged it. These sanctions are extremely unhelpful. I know you've said that you gave no warning, but did you at all speak to the US, warn them or invite them into this coalition of partners to make those sanctions?
Look, we've engaged in Washington and Canberra overnight, but what I would say about this, first, obviously, in the history of our alliance, there are issues on which we have taken different approaches. And I would make the point that we are acting with others. We are acting with the United Kingdom, we are acting with Canada, we are acting with New Zealand, and we are acting with Norway.
Minister, was there any consideration of sanctions against Benjamin Netanyahu personally, and you know that his government doesn't support a two-state solution? Is peace and a ceasefire possible with Benjamin Netanyahu in power?
Look, you know, we have, with others, targeted sanctions, personal sanctions against these ministers because whilst they are not the only members of the Israeli government whose actions have been problematic, they are certainly the most extreme. And as to other matters, we don't speculate about the approach. We maintain our position that we think two states, which is not supported by the Netanyahu government still remains the only viable path to peace and security for both Israelis and Palestinians. I'll go from right to left. So.
Minister Wong, the US statement says that your statement doesn't advance the US-led efforts to end the war. Do you have confidence in those efforts having an impact?
Oh, look, we all want peace. We all want peace. And we will continue to advocate for and work for peace. We will continue to advocate for the return of the hostages, and we will continue to advocate for the delivery of humanitarian aid. I think we all want the situation in the Middle East to resolve.
Secretary Rubio says they remind their partners not to forget who the real enemy is. What are the next steps to bring about peace in this situation?
We have already applied sanctions in relation to Hamas, and we have made clear our view. Hamas is a terrorist organisation that seeks the destruction of the State of Israel, and they can have no role in any future Palestinian state. They are condemned. What we are doing is acting in support of a two-state solution, which is the opposite of what Hamas wants.
The Australian Centre for International Justice has raised concerns about dual citizens fighting for Israel and that they could be engaging in war crimes. Does DFAT have any information of Australians and how many dual citizens have returned from fighting in Israel?
Oh, look, I've made clear previously we discourage people from going to fight in wars overseas and conflicts overseas.
Obviously this statement today is about the West Bank. The statement also talks about unhindered humanitarian aid and the reconstructing Gaza. Can I ask about efforts towards that? I'm aware of the statements that you and other members of the government, the Prime Minister, have made, joined on to. But can Australia do more in terms of helping aid get into Gaza, sending more aid? I believe you met with Mohammed Mustafa, the Australian doctor, last week or the week before. He was talking about money for a children's hospital in Gaza, for instance. Is that something that...
I did meet with Dr Mustafa, and he's a very impressive individual, and we talked at length, I think this was during the election campaign, about the situation in Gaza, which is horrific, and he spoke very personally about what he had seen, and it accords with what we all not only see in media but also the reports that come through. We know, particularly during the period in which Israel blockaded all aid entering, that what occurred in Gaza for children and for civilians was unacceptable. Obviously, it's very challenging for all international partners to get aid in if it is not being allowed in. So the first thing we must do is to press for aid to enter Gaza unhindered, unimpeded, and that statement does that. And it is I would say to the government of Israel, to Prime Minister Netanyahu, you have countries, United Kingdom, Norway, New Zealand, Australia, and countries around the world calling on you to allow humanitarian aid to enter Gaza. We will continue to call on you to do so.